Hello! Today we're going to be taking a look at set 8859 Tractor from 1981. To start this review, we'll need to bring in the instructions. Usually I don't share the instructions of a set in the video, but this set is a bit different because we get 4 different models to build in the instructions. Since most people clicked on this video to look at the main model, I won't spend too much time looking at the other ones. If you only want to see the main model, you can skip to this timestamp. Otherwise, the smallest and shittiest model of the bunch is this weird looking bicycle on the last page of the instructions. Because this thing sucks ass, I won't actually build or review it in this video. The model just before the shitty bicycle is a small buggy. I was debating whether or not I should review it, because there isn't actually anything special about it. We get functional steering and that's about it. We don't even get an engine or a place to sit, although it would be pretty easy to add if you wanted to. There isn't much to say about this model, so we might as well move to the next one. Now, this model is a considerable upgrade from the previous two. As you can see, this is some kind of mid-engine truck with a short wheelbase. The back of the truck is somewhat detailed with a couple of taillights, and this flap can be opened to let us access the trunk. Inside this trunk, we have plenty of space to store our favorite Minecraft mobs, but sadly there is nothing to keep them from falling off because there are no walls and no roof around this truck. The same flaw can be found around the cockpit, which also lacks any kind of protective surface. Of course, there's nothing special about this, that's just how Technic sets were built back then. While we're looking at this cockpit, we might as well bring in this Technic figure. Even if Technic figures were introduced a couple of years after the release of this set, they fit pretty nicely in the red chairs. And so, even if it's completely anachronistic, I like to imagine that this vehicle would be driven by one of these guys. That way, this set feels a bit less empty. Unfortunately, however, the arms of this Technic figure are just a bit too short to reach the steering wheel, and the legs are a bit squeezed between the chair and the dashboard. And if you think the seating arrangement would be uncomfortable, well, it gets worse, because the engine is right behind the driver, so it will probably get really loud as he drives around. Normally, the pistons of this engine would be directly connected to the drive shaft thanks to these Technic gears, but because of this thing called friction, I am unfortunately unable to show the pistons going up and down as we drive along. Before doing this review, I cleaned the parts and I tried swapping the Technic axles to see if any of them would produce less friction, but I couldn't make it work. I'm not sure if it's because of the age of the parts or if the set is just poorly designed, but I've never been able to get a smooth connection between the engine and the drive shaft. So, if I want this car to roll, I have to disconnect the engine from the drive shaft by removing this Technic gear. It looks a bit goofy, but it's not the end of the world. So, overall, I would say this model is pretty interesting, but I think it has a few flaws that hold it back. Thankfully, this is just an alternate build that you can make with the included parts. The main model is far better and far more elaborate, and so, let's take a closer look, shall we? And here we are with the main model of this set. And oh boy, there's a lot to say about this thing. So first things first, I think we should start the review of this model by discussing the various details. Unlike the previous models, which were pretty bare bones, this one feels nicely detailed all around. If we start at the front, we will of course notice the grille and the headlights, and following the hood towards the back leads us to the exposed engine and exhaust pipe. To get a closer look at the engine, we can simply lift up the hood, and there's even a small stick to hold it in place. Just like I mentioned with the previous model, we would normally be able to see these pistons going up and down as we drive along, but once again, I am limited by the high amount of friction between the gears and Technic axles. I can kind of make it work, but as you can see, the tractor doesn't roll too well when the pistons are connected to the drive shaft. For this reason, I always disconnect the last gear at the bottom just so my tractor can roll better. Also, this puts a lot less stress on the parts, which is always good to keep the set in good condition. After all, this set is 45 years old, so I think that's understandable. Anyways, we can also see a couple of lights on either side of the cockpit, and between them we of course get a functional steering wheel. Once again, I would like to bring my anachronistic friend to sit in the driver's seat. He's a bit too small for the tractor, but he seems to be having a fun time, so I'll leave him there for now. On his left, we can see a strange arrangement of gears and bricks, but I'll come back to that in a minute if you don't mind. At the back of the tractor, we get a large open area that could be used to store various tools, resources, and Minecraft mobs. And finally, we get this large mechanical plow, which will of course be used to work the land and make it easier to plant seeds. As you can see, this plow uses some rubber bands to hold the blades, which is good for us because it makes the whole thing less rigid and prone to breaking. Now, this is already really cool, but it gets even better because we can raise and lower this entire mechanical plow thanks to the gear system on the side of the cockpit. Well, actually, we need to pull the lever on the right side of the cockpit to activate the mechanism, and then we can lock it in place with this blue Technic brick on the opposite side. This mechanism works by pushing these gray Technic beams forwards or backwards, which then move these levers up and down. And there you go, that's the main model of the set. But you might be wondering, if we've seen the whole set, why are there still a few minutes left of this video? Well, that's because we are not finished with this model. I'm gonna bring back my instructions because they contain a few more interesting things that I'm sure you're gonna like. For example, we will find this second attachment for the tractor. This seems to be a sort of box blade which will be used to make a clean and smooth path as the tractor drives along. Admittedly, this attachment is a bit less interesting than the previous one, but it's still cool to get a second option. But you might be thinking, what about a third option? Well, the instructions have got us covered because we actually get a third, a fourth, and even a fifth attachment option. I'll need to provide a few of my own parts to build these, but that's completely fine. Also, I know you can see the motor conversion on the left page here, but I'll come back to that in a second if you don't mind. So first, let's build the harrow, which will be used to clean up the soil and remove the unnecessary debris from the way. I didn't mention it earlier, but the tractor comes with a fully functional differential. On one end, it's connected to the drive shaft, and on the other, it's connected to a PTO, which we can then connect to the harrow attachment. And now, when the tractor is rolling, the harrow is spinning. How cool is that? A similar looking attachment is included in the next pages of the instructions, but this seems to be a seed spreader. This type of attachment is used to launch seeds into the freshly plowed soil. Of course, we don't get any real seeds, I think that's obvious, so we'll need to use our imagination. This is such a simple yet amazing contraption. I really love this thing, it's pretty fucking cool. And now for the final attachment. This will probably be used to spray some pesticides or water on our freshly planted seeds. But unfortunately, this attachment doesn't have any special features. It's just a stationary and rigid structure. Finally, there's one last thing that I would like to do with this set. On this page, we can see instructions on how to motorize this set. Unfortunately, I don't have the original motor that is shown in these pictures, but I have a modern motor that can do basically the same thing. And I'm really sorry, but I need to go slightly off topic and yap about this set, okay? So, I remember as a kid, I think it was my first or second time in New York City, and my family brought us to the Toys R Us store in Times Square. The store itself was pretty cool. There were animatronics and moving toys all over the place. It was really fun to see such a vibrant toy store, and as I walked in the LEGO aisles, I came across this Power Function set, and something clicked. I'm not sure if it's because of the animatronics or all the cool lights or whatever, but something clicked. Immediately, a million different possibilities came to mind, and I knew that I wanted this set. I politely asked my parents if this set could be my souvenir for the trip, so they bought it for me with my souvenir budget. And there you go, that's how I got this set. Now, the reason that I shared this story is precisely because I think this is the single greatest LEGO purchase I have ever made. Seriously, this set was incredibly useful to motorize my LEGO vehicles and buildings. As a kid and even as an adult, I found so many things to do with this set, and I cannot recommend it enough. But that being said, let's go back to the tractor. The motor and battery pack are connected, so let's see what it looks like in action. That's pretty sick. Motorized tractors are pretty cool. I think we can all agree on that. So overall, I would say this is an amazing set. I think it goes without saying, but this set looks lovely. It has some really cool play features, and the instructions give us plenty of things to do. Quite simply, this is an amazing set. I love this set. Anyways, I had a lot of fun making this video, and I hope you had a lot of fun watching it as well. Now, if you don't mind, I'm gonna go play with my tractor in the snow. So yeah, I guess that's gonna be it for today, and thanks for watching.
Tractors are pretty sick, man.